Shalom. Why is this Seder different from every other Seder? Why is this Passover different from every other Passover? Why is this night different from every other night? Many people, far too many this year, expect to be alone on the first night of Passover. Moms, dads, singles, maybe yourself. How are we supposed to read the Haggadah alone? How do we celebrate Passover alone? How do we do a Seder alone? We have the right to ask that question. It is a fair question. If the idea of a Passover Seder is to pass on this story to the next generation, why is it then that we are made, some of us, to do it alone this year? This year I cannot even do it with my children, or with my friends, or with my friends' children. It is a fair question. How are we supposed to live it, act it, tell it in the present situation? It is a fair question. On the night of Passover, we're meant to return to that question. The question is, why is this night different from all other nights? Well, in every generation, a person must see himself as though he is leaving Egypt. That's the inner experience of the night of Passover. To return to the darkness of uncertainty, of not knowing, of groping with questions, and then to break out in an exodus to a new light. And yes, there are many questions that we need to revisit. There are many answers that may used to work for me at one time, but no longer work. They are no longer satisfactory. Perhaps this is the time to return to these questions in a new way, in a new light, with a new perspective, with a new idea. The question remains and is very relevant for this year. Why is this night different from all other nights? A wise person knows that even when someone else has the same answers as he does, it is still not the same answer. Each person is a universe, and in each universe, the answer is somehow different, and somehow new and interesting. Two wise people, even if they know the entire Torah, even if they know the entire Bible, they can ask each other, why is tonight different from every other night? So we're stuck because we don't have someone. Why would we ask ourselves the question of which we may already know the answer? at least in the case if one is already is by themselves. Well, we are never alone. A believer is never alone on the night of Passover. On the night of Passover, a believer sits with the Creator of the universe. And the believer says, Abba, I want to ask you 4 questions. I want to ask you, Abba, why is this night different from every other night? Why is this darkness of uncertainty different than any other darkness of uncertainty? Why is there darkness at all? Why is this uncertainty and unknowingness in your universe? Why do you allow the bitter darkness of loneliness in your universe when you yourself say it is not good that man should be alone? And when we do that, Abba, the Creator of the universe, must respond. He has to respond because that is the responsibility of every parent on the night of the universe. He must respond that we are all slaves to our particular Pharaoh of Egypt. We're all slaves to our own Pharaoh. To a Pharaoh that controls our lives. And on that night, he can take each of us by the hand and take us out of Egypt. Take us out of this whole world of darkness. Perhaps it's not a make-do Seder. Perhaps it is the ultimate Seder. I'd like to share a story. In this story, there was a group of people who were traveling together. They were traveling to the house of their rabbi to spend the night of Passover. The dust settled. What happened is that on the night, during the journey, the wagon broke down and dusk settled. They couldn't travel anymore. It's a Shabbat. They were forced to take up residence in a small tavern on the side of the road. They were bitterly disappointed. They were sad. They were expecting this night of rejoicing, of song and food and asking questions, and they were expecting to spend that night with their rabbi. They were all sad. But one of them was full of cheer, and he started joyfully singing Seder songs and starting, Man is the now. Die, die, no, die, die. So the people were wondering, why are you doing this? Why are you so happy? Why are you starting the Seder? Friends, he explained, imagine we arrived at our destination and you will be happy too. But we haven't, they protested. But imagine we had, he answered. And imagine also that there are many other people who had arrived. So many there was no room for us. So many that there was no room for us, but only at a distant end of the table, at the end of the room. They understood. They said, oh, but it still would be the Rebbe's table, our rabbi's table. Yes, he answered. And we are still guests at his table. At his very, 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 very long table. And we're still sitting at it. Upon this understanding, everybody sat down, started the Seder, and rejoiced. Well, it is the same thing. Oh yes, we expected something else. But we are still sitting, even if by ourselves in the darkness of uncertainty and loneliness, we are still sitting at our rabbi's table. We are still sitting at his table, all very far away, because there are so many people at that table. We at the other end of the room, but still at his table. On the night of the very first Passover, each family stayed in their own home. Like this year, no one was allowed to step outside. At midnight, a plague swept through the land, while in each house the people of God sat up in excited anticipation of the morning. They ate roasted lamb with matzah and bitter herbs, and they told stories of their ancestors and of their noble heritage. The next morning, all the people left the bondage and the darkness of Egypt for the promised land. Friends, thus it is with us. May you have a happy, meaningful Seder at the long, 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 long table of our Rabbi Yeshua. See you next year in Jerusalem. Be'ezrat Hashem.